Okay, and I think we have the other panel mic'd, and Ken Gordon is the moderator of this just incredible panel.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm Ken Gordon. I'm the spiritual leader for the Centers for Spiritual Living, and I'm so honored to be here today with this magnificent foursome, this incredible panel we've got. This panel, as Steve said, is called New Leadership Model for the 21st Century, and what we're going to examine is the cutting-edge consciousness and the spiritual practice at the dimension of leadership. It's going to be focused on shared community and responsibility and forms of organization in government and education that might better serve our global community. This will be a wisdom-filled discussion, so you'll want to stay tuned for the whole hour. And firstly, I have the pleasure of introducing you to our panel now. So I'll introduce them one at a time, and then we'll go right into the questions. We have today Dr. Jean Houston, who is a scholar, philosopher, and researcher in human capacities and one of the foremost visionary thinkers and doers of our time. She's one of the principal founders of the Human Potential Movement, and she's a powerful, dynamic speaker who's involved with leadership and education programs throughout the world. She's also the author of 26 books, including Jump Time. She's shaping the future in a world of radical change. So let's welcome Jean Houston. Our next speaker is Dr. Irvin. You're welcome. Thank you. Dr. Irvin Laszlo, and he's the founder and president of the Club of Budapest and is the recipient of 4 honorary PhDs, numerous awards and distinctions, including a 2001 GOI Peace Award, the 2005 Mandir Peace Prize, and he's twice been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. Laszlo is generally recognized as the founder of systems philosophy and general evolution theory. He's the founding father of World Shift and the author and co-author of over 80 books, including The Immortal Mind, Science and the Continuity of Consciousness Beyond the Brain. So welcome, Irvin Laszlo. Next up is Ambassador Anwar Choudhary. He's devoted many years as an inspirational champion for sustainable peace and development and ardently advancing the cause of the global movement for the culture of peace that has energized civil society all over the world. As a career diplomat and a permanent representative to the United Nations and president of the UN Security Council, president of UNICEF Board, UN Under-Secretary General, the senior special advisor to the UN General Assembly President, and recipient of the Youthont Peace Award, UNESCO Gandhi Gold Medal for Culture of Peace, Spirit of the UN Award, and University of Massachusetts Boston's Chancellor's Medal for Global Leadership for Peace. Ambassador Choudhary has a wealth of experience in the critical issues of our time: peace, sustainable development, human rights. So let's welcome Ambassador Anwar Choudhary.
Thank you very much. Happy to join all of you.
Thank you. Next up is Bill Urey, who's a co-founder of Harvard's program on negotiation, and he's one of the world's best-known experts on negotiation and mediation. He's currently a distinguished fellow of the Harvard Negotiation Project with former President Jimmy Carter. William co-founded the International Negotiation Network, which is a non-governmental body seeking to end civil wars around the world. In his advisory capacity, he helped end a civil war in Indonesia and assisted in preventing one in Venezuela. Bill is the recipient of the Whitney North Seymour Award for the American Arbitration Association and the Distinguished Service Medal from the Russian Parliament. His work has been widely featured in the media, from the New York Times to Financial Times and from CNN to the BBC. He's got a very popular TED Talk, which we should all watch, which is called The Walk from No to Yes. So welcome, Bill Urey.
Real pleasure.
So we've got lots of ground to cover, as you probably can already assume. So let's go straight to some questions. So the question number one is for you, Ambassador Choudhary. You invited Humanity's team to create Global Oneness Day in 2010 when their Global Council visited the United Nations. Do you have anything that you would like to share with us about this meeting that you had?
Yes, that is a wonderful recollection I have always. We stood in front of the meditation room at the United Nations visitors entrance, and it was such a delight to see people from various parts of the world gathered together, all committed to creation of global oneness. And I was very happy and honored, and I'm proud that the 50,000 signatures asking for a UN Global Oneness Day was submitted to me on 10th of May, 2010. And it was wonderful to find the energy and exuberance among the people. We decided, and I recommended it strongly, that instead of waiting for the UN to declare a Global Oneness Day, we should declare a civil society's Global Oneness Day and start observing right away. And that is why the first Oneness Day was observed in 2010, October. And from then on, this journey, as we have come down today, is a fantastic journey of bonding together for various parts of the world, journey which has brought many fellow travelers for the cause of peace and global oneness. I believe that unless humanity understands that we are part of a bigger world, I think all our endeavors will not succeed in the way they should. So I am very happy that I am able to join. I have joined you a few times in the past, and I'm very happy that I'm joining you on this occasion. And I would encourage everybody listening now and everybody reading about this to commit themselves to global oneness. We have now this, the Secretary General of the UN has launched a global initiative for education. And one of the three objectives is to create every young person to become a global citizen. And I think the foundation of that global citizenship is very much the concept of global oneness. So I'm very happy to join all of you.
And I'm very happy that you shared that with us. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Dr. Urban, you were an initiator of the Fiji Declaration and the Conscious Business Declaration. How do these declarations point us in an effective new direction?
These are declarations claim, just tell us in very clear language, that we belong to each other, we belong together, that we are one family, with a deeper oneness connecting us. And that there is, in the Fiji Declaration, there is a particular provision as well. It talks about what is called the divine spark. It talks about this deeper sense that we have, which is, in the past it has been called the inspiration and probably a higher calling, but that we all have. And this is one of the main characteristics of the Fiji Declaration. It also tells you that if we find that declaration, then we start acting differently, we behave differently. We behave really like members of a family. We don't do violence, we don't do conflict with each other. We try to help, we try to promote not being members of a single family. Now, at the same time, we are also now launching, the Fiji Declaration was launched last May, out of Fuji, the foot of Mount Fuji, a sacred mountain in Japan. Now we are also launching just now the conscious business declaration, to the new standard for business in the 21st century. It emphasizes the same oneness topic that in a language suited for business leaders to understand that they are human just as much, the business is just as much a part of the human family as any other. It doesn't think about it or apart from it. And its goals are very much the goals of human welfare and human flourishing on this planet. So we hope that there will be more and more people subscribing this declaration and take a commitment to act in the spirit of this declaration.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Urban. Dr. Jean Houston, I know you're an advisor to UNICEF, the United Nations, former presidents of the U.S. you've worked with, so many more people. And one of the things that really catches my attention is that you often share this as a time right now of great change and remarkable opportunity. I know that you have a clear vision for how we partner and work together to create a brighter future. Could you share your wisdom with this and your vision with us?
Well, thank you. And I am so very, very honored to be on this panel with these extraordinary individuals, each of whom I have met or known well. Yes, you know, we're living in a time of whole system transition, which is a condition of interactive change that affects every aspect of life as we know it. I realize other times in history thought they were it. They're wrong. This is it. I mean, because in spite of the many, many negatives that threaten to destroy us, still there is occurring an emergence of patterns of possibility which I believe were never before available to the Earth's people as a whole. And it is true that virtually every known institution and way of being is currently in a state of deconstruction and breakdown. But yet, I mean, given the scientific, the technological, the cross-cultural, the social tools at hand, greatly enhanced by this whole notion of oneness, and also the understanding that we don't just live in the universe lives in us. So that humanity is searching as never before to cooperate in so many areas. I mean, it seems feasible, at least I like to believe it so, that we may be ready to integrate inner and outer dimensions of life in ways which infuse new depth into human development. I mean, new purpose, new responsibility into social transformation. I mean, I really believe that we're in a time of renaissance, the creation of a new planetary civilization with high individuation of culture. I mean, this renaissance, I think, is the deeper momentum behind the drama of the world, the breakdown and breakthrough of every old way of being, knowing, relating, governing. It's a condition of interactive change that affects every aspect of life as we know it. I mean, the vision of change that I propose comes from my development work in now it's something like 109 countries. And I'm optimistic, unlike almost everybody else I know, because we focus on the emergence of patterns of possibility never before available. We are embedded in a larger ecology of being, and surely we are waking up to the realization that we can become partners in creation, stewards of the Earth's well-being, and conscious participants in the evolution of an emerging world civilization.
Oh, thank you. You speak my language. How wonderful to hear it. And Bill, your leadership in the area of transformation through projects like the Abraham Path Initiative and negotiation as an author, key negotiator and respected leader, their epoch. You're very, very well known, and you have definitely paved a path for the rest of us. How do you see leadership shifting in the years immediately ahead?
Well, it's a real pleasure to be able to contribute to this conversation, Ken, and I'd like to pick up on Jean's theme of cooperation, because to me that's underlying all the problems that face the planet, be it climate change or war or poverty or disease. The missing link is our ability to cooperate as a whole. How, in my language, how can humanity itself get to yes? And that's what I've devoted my life to, is trying to understand what are the barriers to us being able to come into agreement on common issues, to solve common problems, to realize common opportunities, common potential. And to me, this is an enormously exciting time with we've had huge breakthroughs in human computation. We've had huge breakthroughs in human communication. This phone call is just one example. Well, I think it's time for us to have huge breakthroughs in human cooperation, in our ability to cooperate across differences of all kinds, be it cultural, political, religious, you name it. And I, for one, believe it's possible. I mean, if we put our best and deepest minds and hearts together on this planet, on this task, you had a critical mass of people waking up every single morning with this one question of how can humanity come together as one? How can we think as one? How can we be as one? How can we act as one? I believe we could come up with incredible breakthroughs. I think that there are parts of the knowledge, of the wisdom present around us. We just haven't brought it quite together yet. We need just like the Manhattan Project, tried to solve the problem of atomic fission, we need to solve the problem of human fusion. How do we actually come together and work together? And we see examples of success, small examples of success, or even large examples of success in different parts of the world. We need a new science of human unity, a new science of fusion to figure this out. And I think, this call, or the kinds of people on this call, we can all contribute to that.
Well, thank you. And I definitely agree. I just came, as a matter of fact, just last week, I came out of the World Parliament of Religions, which was held in Salt Lake City, and it was a magnificent example of people coming together in the realm of the spiritual world, the religious world, to be able to come and form a union. And what I heard there, most definitely, the most dominant thing that I came away with was the feeling and the sense that we all want the same thing, and that it seems to be the vehicle of coming together that is missing. And I know that we're trying all over the world to really be able to find it and establish it and get it into activity. And I believe that our thinking is a majority way of thinking. So I'd like to follow this up with a question to the whole panel, to each of you, if you each could give a short answer for this. It's 15 years into the new millennium right now, and I would like more examples of what Bill is talking about, which is the change in leadership and what's happening. And is our oneness with the divine and each other changing our vision of the world? And is leadership communicating that vision to people in ways that are having some form of impact? So whoever would like to come forward from the panel first, please jump right in.
Okay, I'd like to pick it up because you're talking about the vision, okay? And there is one source of vision that is coming from science that has particular credibility. You might say, is there a science of oneness? And I would say that yes, there is. As a matter of fact, the new physics is a physics of oneness. There's a very funny theories that are coming to light now, which are becoming mainstream theories, even though they were very much speculative even just a few years ago. It is definitely known now that all of phenomena of consciousness are non-local. That you can contact consciousness beyond the barriers of space and time. The distance or time is actually a barrier to this, or a hindrance to this. You can't meet, you can't contact, you can communicate across that. You are non-local, there are non-local consciousness. As a matter of fact, there are non-local beings as well. And the theory, which was very speculative a few years back, which is now widely accepted in the physics community, this is because we are all actually a kind of a manifestation, a projection of a hologram. The hologram, is a curious phenomenon. All the information in the hologram is given on all of its elements. So no matter how small a part of the hologram is illuminated, you get the entire image. And if you think of the hologram as producing 3D phenomena, three-dimensional, you will think of a two-dimensional surface that is somewhere on the periphery. And this is the theory. It's a serious science physics theory. On the two-dimensional periphery of space-time, the holographic code, the entire three-dimensional world is coded on the periphery of space-time, or conceivably beyond space-time, which is a part of the theory that I've been developing, the Akashic field theory. It's entirely feasible and possible and very likely, in fact, that we are actually manifestations of a holographic oneness in the universe, which is beyond space and time. And so the oneness is coding into us. We are manifestations of oneness. And all we have to recognize it. We have been ignoring it because, once again, we have the kind of a mind which can ignore even the most basic instinct because you just simply don't believe it. And if you don't believe something, to us, then it just doesn't exist. So it's a question of, going back and you talk about leadership. One of the aspects of leadership is to open up our mind to the deeper dimension. The Dean was talking about it. It's a leader in that field very much, where you can feel that on a transcendental level, on a deeper level of consciousness, you can feel that oneness. Because it is there. The whole universe is the expression of a single basic hologram. Sounds like science fiction, but it's the current understanding in physics And I think it's basically it's a true understanding and it gives us assurance that what we talk about oneness is not just imagination. It's there because the physics, the most basic physics of the universe is oneness.
I wonder whether we're in a state in which the world mind is taking a walk with itself, not just overtly, but in much deeper levels. I work with leadership all over the world, from heads of countries to the man who is in charge of sanitation in his leper colony in southern India. And actually, I don't make much difference between them, truth be told. But what I am finding, Ken, is that there is a spiritual shoot that is enlivening humanity at very deep levels, and a willingness, I believe, to co-create a new human and social paradigm in which humanity and the earth are each enhanced within the context of a collective destiny. Because as the membrane of the old forms breaks down, a much more complex and inclusive organism, global organism, is coming into being. And as living cells within this new organism, we are rescaled to earth-wide proportions in our responsiveness and our responsibility. We are being rescaled to global oneness. I truly believe this, and absolutely have such admiration for Dr. Laszlo's phenomenal work that he does on the nature of consciousness and the mind and how this is supporting this. But this also means that we have to retrain leadership at every level because, quite frankly, I run into leaders who are still perhaps the best leaders of the year 1926. They've not been educated for the enormous complexity of this time. That's why I once created a field called social artistry. Human development in the light of social change, not in the light of 20, 30, 60, or 70 years ago. And as I see it, the current state of collective potential growth is there, and it's being propelled by three powerful forces running parallel and fueling each other. I mean, the repatterning of human nature, the regenesis of human societies, the breakdown of the membrane. And what I find is that when you train leadership, and by that I mean leadership at every level, including especially young people, they respond, the repatterning of human nature. We have so many capacities that really could not be educated until this time. And so what had previously belonged to the elite few must become the province and the requirement of the many if we're going to survive the next 100 years. I mean, we have to learn to tap into the creative workshops of the mind to solve problems, to bring forth art, poetry, invention. We have to discover ways to feel at home with anyone, anywhere, as Bill Urey teaches us so brilliantly, anytime. Most people, I find, given opportunities and training, can learn to think and feel and know in new ways, can function in their bodies with better use and awareness, can become certainly more creative, more imaginative, and, of course, aspire to a much larger awareness, one that taps into the great field ground, the spiritual ground of consciousness, and thus is able to, in a sense, download, receive, be much better equipped to deal with the complex challenges of life. I mean, it's true, as Albert Einstein reminded us, we cannot solve problems from the same consciousness that created them. I mean, all of us on this call are deeply involved in shifting that consciousness. So consciousness that can find solutions to such problems needs models of its own matured possibilities, the lure of becoming, visions of what the possible human can be and do that go beyond the limits of academic excellence or dogged persistence to goals. And then we need the regenesis of human society.
I would like to add here that I think, to me, basically I found that we need to abandon also the thought about leadership being elitist, as we have done over the years. But now common people's leadership and the change of the mindset of the common people is very essential. Days are gone when we have to think only in terms of our national boundaries, nation states. we have to go beyond that. We have to create what my friend and peace philosopher Sri Chinmay used to say, our world family. And that is very important. We need to start thinking about the world as a whole. Oneness, that is the value of oneness. Until we create that sense, that change of mindset from for the young people of the world who are growing up with enthusiasm and energy to do something for the service of humanity, we have to tell them that we do not have to contain ourselves within our national boundaries. We can go beyond that and reach out. And that is what I also, in my pursuit for advancing the culture of peace, I insist on the change of mindset, where people will think that we belong to one global village, and any problem anywhere can affect us as a whole. So that is the essential message. And I believe that the growing quest for recognition of human right to peace is a very essential element in this context. And we have been working, the world is yet to recognize that there is a human right to peace. And I believe that's a very important component of the culture of peace that we are all trying to promote and advance.
Well, it's wonderful to hear somebody who comes out of a national setting, leadership setting, talks about on the global level, because we need to move that. Leadership means not to operate out of a particular set in time and space, but to move beyond that and to encompass the entire human family, the entire human situation, the entire situation of life, because we are so intimately bound up with all of life. If we are now capable of creating, and we are actually doing mass extinctions, we are capable of creating the major catastrophe for life on Earth. We are actually the guardians. We are in our hands, so better or for worse, there's the fate of higher forms of life on this planet. And we need to move beyond that. Any kind of natural or structural, even humanism has to be a kind of a beyond. It's beyond just the humanism for all life, maintaining all life. I think this is the kind of step that is emerging now, and I just like to add one thing to this. When we talk about leadership, the classic idea is a leader who leads because he or she knows. And that idea somehow has to be given.
Well, I'm wondering if Bill Urey can talk about, since we've just said about how the movement has to be from the egocentric and the ethnocentric to the world-centric, a fundamental change in the nature of civilization. I mean, compelling a passage beyond the mindset institutions of millennia. I know you've worked so much in this whole cooperation within a new science of fusion. Given all this, how do you see it working in your own work and what you're doing?
Well, first of all, I would say the kind of leadership we're talking about, Jean, very much, as everyone is saying, comes from the inside out.
Yes.
That what I'm finding, I wrote a book many, many years ago, co-authored a book called Getting to Yes, and my last book is called Getting to Yes with Yourself, because I really believe that the missing component of being able to get to yes with others, in other words, to be able to live with each other with all of our differences, is our own ability to get to yes within ourselves, to really not just put ourselves in the shoes of the other, but put ourselves in our own shoes. If we truly want to listen to others, which I think is the key to cooperation, this ability to listen, not just to talk, but to listen profoundly, not just to the words, but what's beneath the words, we need to begin by truly learning to listen to ourselves, finding that center in ourselves, finding that connection to the whole within ourselves, realizing we are not separate. And when we come to that realization that we're not separate, then I think that's the key to coexistence in the world, to see the other as ourselves. And to me, one of the keys in all of this, one of the key barriers to cooperation, to planetary cooperation, is, I see it everywhere. I just came back from the Ukraine, for example, Ukraine and Russia, Tomorrow I'm going to Colombia to work on the Civil War there. And what I see everywhere is the fundamental lack of trust. And what I would like to see as part of this new science of human fusion is, what do we know about what does it take to create trust among human beings, not just between two individuals, but between two societies, between humanity, among all of humanity, and humanity and other living beings as well. We could extend it out. Yes. But I'd love to know what are good examples of where there's been massive creation of trust. How do we recover from where there's distrust, when there's betrayal? How do we set that up? Because if we could have the trust that we need, we would see a lot more cooperation.
Yes. You know that we several countries have initiated truth and reconciliation programs to heal the dark side, so to speak, in order to be able to move forward. And I think that that's demonstrated some great success in the way that it works. I mean, even here in North America, where we see the erosion of trust that's taking place in our cultures between cultures of color and the white cultures, and seeing what's happening here, I think that that's a demonstration of a macro belief, of a collective consciousness that goes beyond just North America. I think it happens throughout the world. So, you know, Jean mentioned a very, very interesting thing when she was talking about the young leaders, the new leaders, getting out of the archaic way of being. Technology changes so quickly these days that it's not like our grandparents' age where it took so long to make the differences. And I think that we're trying to keep up with it. I think consciousness has fallen behind technology to a large degree. So my question to Jean, to go back to it, and then I think I'll ask the rest of you the same thing. What is your message to our youth leaders? What is it that you could tell them, the steps that they can take to bring the vision and voice and the value to events that are unfolding right now on this Earth's evolution?
Well, I think that there is a positive stance, if we could look at it this way. We're in an interdependent world. This is the world they've grown up to. Old barriers are very slowly dissolving, and in many cases with the ancient phobias that sustain them. I mean, the technologies of instant communication, certainly. The exchange of information that I believe enables people to join minds and hearts in mutual discovery and creation. I find young people are very much involved in this kind of mutuality. The benefits of cultural diversity, they certainly see this. They are adopting a more inclusive worldview. I mean, look at what's just happened just in the last 10 years around that. What began in migrations and global economics is going into great acceleration. I've just come from Europe, where I've been working to the degree that I can with trying to help in the migrant crisis. I think there's a new social paradigm, and that to help them see ourselves as living cells within this new complex, inclusive global organism. And whatever one wakes up to, this is something I try to tell them about, a new species is being cooked in the big pot of fusions. I mean, nothing is gradual. We're watching a speeded-up movie of a strange multicultural mitosis and their stranger spawn. And some of them look very much like strange spawn. I mean, cultures thousands of miles apart that had gestated in the womb of preparatory time for thousands of years are suddenly cheek by jowl and attending the same schools and working in the same business and bleeding into each other, sometimes in fury, sometimes in friendship. And in the force of the meeting, what I'm seeing with them and what I talk to them about, a new genesis occurring. Occasionally a melding of genes, but more often a mingling of previously divided worlds which, thrown together, undergo, as Shakespeare said, a sea change into something rich and strange. And what results is not merely a hyphenated amalgam, Afro-Asian rock music or Hong Kong cyberpunk art, but rather hybrid sounds for hybrid selves, a kind of malleable syncretic fusion that's generating its own cultural matrix. And this not yet definable culture which these young people are bearing is providing, I believe, and this really turns them on, sufficient stimulus to call forth possibilities, latencies in the human brain-mind system that were never needed before. And it's the breakdown of the old ways is not merely cultural fusion. It is a joining together of the geographies of the mind and body that had never touched before. I mean, weaving synapses and sensibilities to create people who are fused into the world mind with its empowering capacities. And so this is what is happening. And any so good social artist has to relate to this quickening charge of cultural mitosis and stay abreast of the ways in which it's occurring, from food to music to literature to theater to the very lineaments of culture. Consciousness, I believe, is remaking itself, and I certainly see this with the young people.
Well, bless you. And Dr. Urban, do you have a brief message as to what you would tell the youth leaders of our day and what steps they could take?
I think a leader today has to be a servant. It has to be somebody who knows where to go to find true leadership and then to support it. And has to move beyond the idea that they know, that you know, and you tell others what to do. Something is emerging, that Gene was talking about, and the other are talking now here. Something is emerging. Something is emerging because they are close to a cost, a kind of a tipping point, a bifurcation, a chaos point. And this is being sensed everywhere. I'm now in Mexico, since yesterday, and at the meeting of on global values. And it's amazing how people from different parts of the world, coming here from India, from China, as well as from the Americas and Europe, we are all talking about this possibility of creating something new, co-creating here. The whole emphasis is on co-creation. But there is something new emerging, and this something new has to be held a midwife function, basically, bringing it forth. And that's the leader, to my mind. Somebody who has a sense of there is something happening, like Dean is talking, there is something happening that is really mindful, that is really significant. And then pass it along. Connect, coordinate, synchronize, synergize. These, I think, are the qualities that we need in a leader.
Thank you. And Ambassador Choudhary, do you have a response to the question of
yes.
how you talk to the youth leaders with regard to this?
Yes, two things. I believe that it is very important from, in this day and age of technological innovations and creativity, the world is prepared to support the young people's eagerness to reach out to the rest of the world, to feel that they are part of a bigger world. But the technology by itself will not provide unless there is an effort to change the mindset. Because technology has been used and abused in a different way also, just on the reverse, to promote violence, to promote hatred, to promote prejudice. So I believe it is very important for our education, the education that we share with the students in the schools, colleges, and universities, that they have to change their priorities, change the mindset. And I think that sometimes we compare our minds if we compare our minds to a computer. Education is really the software which helps us to reboot our priorities and actions. And I think that action should tell young people that you can resolve your challenges of life, your difficulties that you face, your efforts to reconnect with the rest of the world will come through non-aggressive, non-violent, peaceful ways. And that is very important for them to understand that aggression, violence would not resolve our problems. Rather, they will complicate that. So just a sense that we have to work together, we have to cooperate, as Dr. Yuri mentioned, that we should continue to feel that if we communicate with each other in a positive way, we stand to benefit at the end of the day. Violence and aggression does not carry us towards any positive direction. So that is my message to the young people, that try to create the culture of peace and nonviolence in your mindset, in your approach to the rest of the world.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Along with
Bill, I'm sorry, Gene, go ahead.
Just a quick note. Along with this, speaking directly so beautifully as the Ambassador has just spoken to young people, is a true partnership society in which women join men in the full social agenda. I mean, women tend to emphasize process over product and being rather than doing, and deepening rather than end-goaling. As a result of this partnership, I mean, look what could happen. The old linear, didactic, sequential solutions will yield to a knowing that comes from seeing things as a whole, seeing them as a whole rather than as discrete facts. And the consciousness that is engendered, I think, by women's consciousness, by this comprehensive vision, is, I think, very well adapted. It's been gestating in the womb of preparatory time, lo, these millennia, ready to emerge as is happening now, and can really deal in partnership with men in the tremendous number of challenges and variables and the multicultural realities of the modern world. It raises hope for forgiveness between and healing among nations and ethnic groups, and ethical growth, empathy between individuals, as Bill was talking about, and it honors the golden rule of human interchange. And that's what I find, frankly, all over the world, especially being led by women of a certain age, who really have the wherewithal and the fierce courage to go out and make things happen.
I would strongly support Dr. Houston on this emphasis on equality and empowerment of women. Bravo.
Well, I think we're all in agreement with that one. I think that works well. And Bill, do you have a message to the youth leaders?
Well, yeah, just as a father of a 17-year-old daughter who's ready to take the world, I must say I'm inspired by today's youth. We went to an event called We Day, where there were like 17,000 youth who are dedicated to local service and local community service and global community service all together for a day. And I think the potential is there, because what the youth have is they know no limits. For them, anything is possible. And I'll just give you just a single example from my daughter, who was born with special needs and 15 surgeries, and Jean's met her, and she just decided last year that she was going to go for a Guinness World Record, and she decided to go for the Guinness World Record of the longest abdominal plank, which is, as you know, this exercise where you have to hold yourself steady on your elbows like a plank, like a rigid plank. And lo and behold, the women's record was 40 minutes, and she went on her 16th birthday for an hour and 20 minutes, and she's now in the Guinness Book of World Records. To me, that is, yeah, if you want, she has actually a TED Talk about how she did it, Gabi Yuri. And but to me, that's just an example of a young person who was born with certain physical challenges and so on, but just didn't accept that that meant that she couldn't do something, and she went ahead and set a world record. And to me, that's what the youth of today can do, is they cannot accept any of the old, we can't do this, that's impossible, that's impossible. Everything is possible. And today, with the technology of today, with social media, with internet, with the development of a global brain that accompanies the world mind, as Gene was saying, I think we can actually find ways to reach out, come together, cooperate in new ways. What youth can bring is breakthrough thinking and breakthrough acting and breakthrough being, and that's what we need.
Thank you so much. It's amazing how quickly the time is flying by here. This has been so brilliant. I want to come back to talk about what you talked about, Bill, with regard to trust needed in the world. And I know that Gene Houston said that the next great step is in transforming intention into action. What I would like us to do is talk about that. What is the action that we can do that will bring trust forward and open for us in our society today. And we're going to have to be fairly brief, so let's start with you, Dr. Jean.
Well, I'm thinking from your question about some words by T.S. Eliot, which are redeem the time, redeem the unread vision of the higher dream. And everybody on this panel has been working with the higher dream, that we're not encapsulated bags of skin dragging around dreary little egos. We are an evolutionary wonder of 50 trillion cells singing together in a vast chorale, a symbiosis of cell and soul. Our brains are cell stargates, you know. We can enter into a larger field of mind, spirit. This means that we really become available. We become available. Maybe I really believe that there is a spiritual shift that is happening, that the mind of the maker is determining that the time is ready for a major jump in culture and consciousness. And there's a kind of insertion from everybody of social and psychic enzymes to help effect the transition, that we know ourselves as God seeds, and we are in that state of discovering the genius of our larval minds, engaging in spiritual practices, old and new, to explore the brave new worlds of inner continents. I want people who are listening to become superb catalysts. I mean, especially the young people, carriers of new genesis in a world that's getting ready to move from chaos to renaissance. I want you to be given to contemplation in all of these spiritual practices, and then I think we realize that these are the times, and we are the people who are going to make the difference.
A great swing to spirituality to help build that. A great swing to spirituality to help develop that. Could everyone else, perhaps we'll go with you, Ambassador, next, to just feed into what Jean said, and perhaps you could give us some action steps to develop trust very briefly right now. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with Dr. Houston that spirituality is an essential component of our efforts. Unless we have spiritual reawakening in ourselves, we do not. Even in many of my speeches, like yesterday, at a conference, I emphasized that the United Nations delegations should all of them have that spirituality built into their mindset. But regarding action, I would say that a very essential action is to start with the families. The families have to understand that, yes, maybe the time has gone by them in their lives, but they have a responsibility to bring up their young with a mindset which is openness, which is forgiveness, which is promoting non-aggressive ways of interconnecting with each other, and that is very important. We need to keep in mind that the mind of a young starts changing very early, maybe as early as 4 or 5 year old. So it is the foundation of a better world, a better community should start with the family, and that is a very essential element that I'm talking about now more and more.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. And Dr. Urban?
Trust, I think, gets to be deserved. And it's something that one feels. One feels from a person if he or she is trustworthy. It's something instinctive almost. But it has to be demonstrated in the way that Gandhi had in mind when he said, "These are change you want to see in the world." Be trustworthy. If you are trustworthy, I think that will be said. And how is one trustworthy? If one doesn't put oneself in the forefront always. If one can cooperate with others. If one doesn't just compete, just to out-compete others. If one doesn't believe that somebody who lost in a competition is just good. That somebody who has more of something, more good at something is better. But being trustworthy means being able to create a community, be part of a community, be part of the new futures that we are talking about. the new culture that is coming about. I think that itself, a person who is associated radiates that to the person, and it can be felt. And then it is demonstrated that it's confirmed. And what's worse than it starts at home. Starts with the family, but starts with your own ego, with your own action in the world. And young people today are increasingly frustrating the same. They're not out there for their own good, for their own selfish immediate good. They're out because they have a dream, an ideal, an aspiration. And that it really deserves stress.
Thank you so much, Dr. Irvin. And Bill, you're the one who brought the trust up and really sparked my light for it, so perhaps you could address this.
Sure. Well, I'm reminded, actually, I'm inspired by Jean and her poetry. So let me just start with a poem that I think actually has the essence of the answer to the trust question, which is a poem by Edward Markham from maybe the 1930s. And one stanza goes, "They drew a circle and shut me out, a rebel, a heretic, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took them in." And to me, that's the key to trust, which is others will sometimes, people naturally, we all have this wound of exclusion. We will exclude, we will reject when we're operating out of fear. And the normal reaction to that is to exclude back, to reject back, to, they draw a circle and shut us out, we draw a circle and shut them out. But the paradoxical Aikido move is to do the opposite, is when the other side excludes us, draws a circle that shuts us out, it's to draw an even wider circle and include them. But the great battle in the world today is on this issue of exclusion and inclusion. And there are those who, out of fear, are excluding others, and that can often take the form of physical violence, discrimination, whatever, racism. But if we're able to include even the excluders, through the power, ultimately, of love, which is, spiritually based, this is timeless wisdom, but we can do it in very practical ways that can actually build the fundamental trust that's needed if this planet, if humanity is going to survive.
Thank you all. This has been absolutely marvelous, and I wish we could go on for a lot longer, but unfortunately we're closing down. What I would like to do is give each one of you 1 minute or less to be able to share how your contact information, where your contact information is, and also just any brief closing thoughts you might have. So let's begin with Ambassador Choudhary.
Yes, again, as my message has been always, that try to create the culture of peace in your mindset, become a global citizen, and believe firmly in the oneness of humanity, and that is, I believe, can make the world move ahead towards a positive direction. That will lead us to the world we want. And I would like to say that if you want to contact me, I think my email is available to all of you. Anwarul, that my first name, C is the initial of my last name, anwarulc@hotmail.com. And you are most welcome to contact me, raise any questions that you have. I would love to. If you come to the United Nations, let me know. I'll be happy to meet with any one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's been an honor. And Dr. Irvin?
Well, I have two undertakings, two endeavors in my life at present, in addition to writing my books and doing my research. One is to the Club of Budapest, which is to create my network of almost 20 countries in Club of Budapest. Today we have inaugurated the Club of Budapest, Mexico. And this week I reached this Club of Budapest of like-minded people dedicated to planetary consciousness, simply by the website clubofbudapest.com. The other enterprise is the research enterprise, and now created of Pentatonic is the Paul-Media-Laszlo Institute for New Paradigm Research, which is dedicated to doing research on the new holistic paradigm emerging in science and its various implications and applications. And that you can reach on the internet by visiting LaszloInstitute.com. Thank you for all of you for collaborate with me.
Thank you very much. Dr. Jean, contact information and closing thoughts.
Yes, my contact is jeanhouston.com. jeanhouston.com. My closing lines is that we are at that stage where the real work of humanity begins in oneness. I mean, this is the time and place where we partner creation in the recreation of ourselves, in the restoration of the biosphere, and in the assuming of a new kind of culture, what we might term a culture of kindness, where we live daily life in such a way as to be reconnected and charged and intelligenced by the source of our reality, so as to become liberated as to our inventiveness and very engaged, every one of us, in our world and our spiritual tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bill Ury?
Yes, my contact information, you can reach me through my website at williamury, that's URY.com, or on Facebook at William Ury, GTY, which stands for Getting to Yes, which is my passion, is helping people get to yes. And I firmly believe that in humanity's potential, in our potential to get to yes, both in our families, in our workplaces, in our communities, in our societies, and ultimately as a whole, as one humanity, because there is not two humanities, there is only one. And I want to wish all of the listeners much success in getting to yes with yourself in order to be able to get to yes with others.
Thank you so much, panel, and thank you, audience. I understand that there were 60,000 registrations for it, so that's quite a connection. That's quite an audience we have here. And I thank you, Dr. Jean Houston, Dr. Ervin Laszlo, Ambassador Anwar Choudhary, and Bill Ury. Stay tuned. Next up, we're going to have Ian Van-Zant and Steve Farrell, and they're going to sit down and talk about how new thought and ancient wisdom are changing lives in the United States and around the world. So don't miss this 30-minute program. Don't know how we're going to cover all that in 30 minutes, but I'm positive it's going to be spectacular. So before we begin, we're going to be silent for 10 seconds to center ourselves in the oneness with the divine and with each other. This is a living idea in the mind of spirit itself, and all I can do is open myself to the greatness. So we call this a oneness moment, and we're going to begin our oneness moment now.